Hi, thanks for still being with us on Earth Day. We have another special guest, Henrik Lauritsen, right?
Yes.
Who's joining us. He's from ZeroNorth and heads up engineering and operations, team here at ZeroNorth. So, as you may have seen on one of our posters, we have a quiz for you to take, which tests your global trade eco expertise. So will you hold up the poster? Yes. So what you do is you take your phone, you scan your QR code, and then you get the quiz on your phone. So perfect, you can put the poster down now. We're gonna start this. I'm gonna ask you, and then we're gonna see how much you know.
Alrighty.
Okay. So what percentage of fuel savings can be unlocked by optimizing vessel operations? Up to 10%, up to 50%, up to 25%, or up to 75%?
I would say up to 25%.
Okay, let's see. That's number C. Okay, yes, correct. The answer is up to 25%. Okay, 1. Number 2, what percentage of global trade is transported by the maritime industry? 70, 50, 30, or 90%?
I would say 90%.
Let's see. Yes, 90%. That's true. All right, perfect. Okay, what is the primary greenhouse gas emitted by ships? Methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, or ozone?
I would go with carbon dioxide.
All right, let's see. Carbon dioxide. That's correct. Carbon dioxide. Good job.
Yeah.
3 out of 3. Okay, number 4. Which industry produces the most greenhouse gas emissions? Energy production, transportation, fashion, or agriculture?
That's a tough one.
It is.
I would go with transportation, actually.
Okay. I actually know that that's the wrong answer.
It is.
Transportation is only, shipping is only 3% emissions, but the right answer is energy production. Yes. All right, so 3 out of 4, not bad. Here we go. Number 5, which international regulation aims to reduce sulfur emissions from ships by limiting the sulfur content in fuel oil? Okay, you can read it here as well. So this is a regulation.
Yeah.
The EU emission standards, the EPA regulations, the Green Maritime Guidelines, and the IMO 2020.
We are talking the sulfur content. I'll guess EU emission standards, but I'm not sure about this one.
Okay, so that's not right. It's actually IMO 2020. So to be fair, you weren't really in the maritime industry back then.
Exactly.
But every year there's been different regulations that are coming out.
Yes.
So the IMO 2020 was really about the sulfur content of fuels, and that's when scrubbers kind of came into play. Okay, number 6. So you're actually doing pretty well, right? So you'll have 3 out of 5, so not bad. Which type of marine pollution poses a significant threat to marine wildlife through entanglement and ingestion? Thermal pollution, plastic pollution, noise pollution, or chemical pollution?
I'll go with plastic pollution.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you on that one. Yes, that's right. Plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is a tremendous burden on our wildlife in the sea.
Yes.
So something needs to be done about that. And there's a lot of actually startups that are doing interesting things these days, how they can collect it. And actually there's an initiative where vessels on the sea are pointing out when they see these islands of plastics, and they're alerting the companies that are removing them. So there are things that are happening. Okay, number 7. What is the primary objective of the EU, European Union's emissions trading system, EU ETS? Okay, 1, to regulate maritime safety standards. 2, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from industries covered under the system. C, to promote tourism along the European coastlines. Or D, to discourage overfishing practices in the EU.
It's definitely B, reducing greenhouse emissions.
All right.
That's the one that tricked me with the other question with the sulfur content, because my head is all around.
The EU ETS, yeah,
Exactly
that's
right
the
now.
biggest
Yes.
thing that most of our customers are concerned about right
Exactly.
now. Okay, you're right. Okay, number 8. How does the shipping industry contribute to greenhouse gas emissions annually? How does it contribute? Okay, well, this one is, it says a negligible contribution, less than 2% of total global emissions, approximately 3% of total global emissions, and over 10% of the global emissions. There's 2 answers that are very close there.
Yeah, I think I'll actually go with option C, 3%.
Approximately 3%, and you are right.
Good.
That is true. This is something that they actually predict will keep going up if we don't do anything about it, which is why everybody's working very hard to, with regulations and also voluntary actions to reduce the emissions so that we don't keep going up in those. Okay, 2 more questions. In addition to carbon dioxide, which pollutants will the shipping industry have to measure in 2026, so this is coming up, as part of the emissions regulations? Okay, sulfur oxides and nitrogen oxides, that's A. B, particle matter and volatile organic compounds. C, methane and nitrous oxide. And D, carbon monoxide and lead.
That's a tough one. If I had to choose, I would say C, but that might be wrong.
Methane and nitrous oxide?
Yes.
Actually, you're right. So there's a new regulation that's coming up in 2026, where not only you'll have to measure your CO2 emissions, but also your methane and your nitrous oxide. And so there's actually rolling emissions reporting that will gradually get more intense 2025, 2026. So we all have to be aware to not just decarbonize, but to make sure all greenhouse gases are reduced. Okay, our last question, and thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, what is the term used to describe the practice of designing ships and ports to minimize negative environmental impacts? Environmental exploitation, green logistics, carbon footprinting, or ecological degradation?
Carbon footprinting?
Okay.
Not sure.
I'm thinking it's green logistics, but let's see.
Yeah.
Green logistics, yes. So this is something actually that I don't know a lot about, but I mean, I guess is the term for the whole green logistics and how do we improve upon our ports and the way we sail. So fantastic. Okay, so you actually it's supposed to give me actually what you were like. You get a expertise here. Yeah. So I think you got, what was that, 7 out of 10? So that's pretty good.
It is?
Yeah, I think it's not so bad. So we would say that you are a sustainability sustainability savvy. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And take the quiz yourself. It's super fun. See what your eco expertise is.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Bye. So we're here today on Earth Day, celebrating our planet, just like millions of people, actually billions of people around the world. So from a global trades perspective, it's critical for us to navigate our way to zero. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to understand what our emissions are. We need to understand benchmarks that we can measure upon. We need to have the right type of data that will help us to report on our regulatory requirements, but also on our voluntary ones. So we're going to delve a little bit deeper in this section into emissions. What are the regulations? What are the type of emissions that are going to be required for us to measure? And how do we do that? So I hope you'll stay with us as we delve deep into emissions and how we reach our targets of navigating to zero.